Hello and welcome. This is Nutri-Ingredients USA. Now, when you look at the sports nutrition category, some people have said that all you see is a sea of sameness. A lot of products. People have whey protein, people have pre-workouts. So where is the innovation in that category? Well, I'm very pleased to be joined by Dr. Jim Stoppani, who is obviously from Jim Supplement Science. Jim, it's always a pleasure to see you.
Pleasure's mine, Steve.
So when you look at the sports nutrition category and, the various products that are out there, I mean, you obviously have a brand that stands out, and has had incredible growth over the last few years. Where do you see the innovation in the sports nutrition space? And is there, as some people are saying, just not many innovative ingredients coming onto the market anymore?
Yeah, it's a great question. And let me just speak for myself and my company, sort of my philosophy of what innovation is. And to me, innovation is not necessarily the latest, greatest caffeine replacement that we don't get desensitized to, right? Whether or not that's a real benefit. I don't believe in making consumers guinea pigs, So unless the safety data is there, and I know it takes millions of dollars, but is plan B really we'll just use people as guinea pigs until we see that there's a problem? So my innovation doesn't come from finding the latest, greatest ingredient. My innovation comes from using tried and true ingredients. Caffeine right? Yeah. Caffeine, that's what's in pre-gym. There's no and tyrosine, there's no crazy stimulants, right? Tried and true, we know they're safe and effective, but it's the synergies that I use. How much tyrosine? How much alpha GPC to get that brain effect? How much caffeine that we can get a strength effect, but it's not going to blow most people's minds when they take it, because we know the research on caffeine, you need a pretty high dose. And so what I found is, luckily over the years of not only working in the lab, but literally working in the gym with athletes of every style, from bodybuilders to power athletes to endurance athletes, is what ingredients at what doses sort of come together. And that's really the benefit that I bring. You can't go to school and get a PhD in supplements. You really can't. And so it's taking the knowledge that you have in biochemistry and then taking it from the bench to the application, and not just looking at, hey, creatine is great, but what does creatine and beta-alanine do together? We know there's research that shows when you take beta-alanine, it not only is better, but it improves the benefits you get from creatine.
Right. So that's where you see the value and the innovation.
I see the innovation in using what we know works, what we know is safe, and creating synergies that complement one another and give us a pre-gym, for example, right? I mean, people are literally, a lot of people, but when I launched that, people were blown away by that product, right? Like I said, it's caffeine. It's caffeine, and people say, wow, I get this energy, I don't get a crash that I normally get from caffeine. Yes, because what have I provided? Tyrosine, alpha GPC, what do those things do in the brain that are going to keep you steady versus caffeine high in a crash? It's 300 milligrams, it's not time release. It's 300 milligrams, and yet you don't get that crash. It's because of those synergies. And really, like I said, that's what I pride myself on in the innovation, and I wish there was more of that versus chasing the next creatine. That's fine, yeah. But those are sort of once in a decade, or those come along, those ingredients. And it takes a long time before we know, that creatine is effective and safe, yeah. Right? And there's so much. When we look back at creatine now, it's kind of silly to think there's been so much confusion, yet there still is. But between the two of us, we know it's safe, it's effective, right? Yet, what does the rest of the world think of it?
Right. So when you look at these ingredients, they've been out there a long time, but I don't know necessarily that a lot of studies have been done in, when you look at some of these complex formulations, that,
exactly.
When you put them all together, what do they do together? Like there's a lot of question marks around that. So when you meet with these ingredient suppliers, like say here at Supply Side West, are those questions that they have answers to, or what are those conversations like?
No, it's typically looking at single ingredients. And that's the problem in not just in the industry, but in the research. Because of control, right? Once we've thrown two ingredients together, Yeah, it's a lot tougher to control what was actually giving the benefit. And so it just makes it muddier. And so we tend to stick to nice, clean studies.
So how do you approach it then? I mean, are you looking to do some of your own studies, and
Yeah, we really are. And again, it's down to the money. Luckily, as the company grows, we're able to put more money into the research and start working with Dr. Like I said, I brought Dr. Tim Sheet, my chief scientific officer, stole him out of academia, and we're doing a lot of different studies on looking at how long when you take green tea, how long does the metabolic boost last for? Is it that long? It doesn't appear to be that long. How can we sort of increase that and enhance that? Will the time-release caffeine be better? Because of the research that shows smaller doses tend to work better than one bolus. So we're looking at ways, and even we're just starting with pilot studies that doesn't really cost anything, to see if we can find that aha moment. But again, we're just working with the same ingredients, but trying them in different ways and in different combinations.
Right. And at this show, and pretty much every single conference you'll go to now about natural products, CBD is everywhere, right? I mean, and you're starting to see brands come out in the sports nutrition space with CBD, or based on CBD, formulated with CBD. What's your take on CBD, and what are some of the questions that you would want answered before?
Yeah, and I've been presented with the opportunity as well, and I still say that I live in California where marijuana is legal. Yeah. So, but I still say that you have to be careful of the category in sort of maintaining the line of what is a supplement, what is a drug, and I still think it's falling on the drug side. So, personally, I'm staying away from it, and we can talk about synephrine, for example. I have synephrine in my shred gel. And even though it's not required, I've made changes just because I see where the regulations are going. And if I'm going to be sort of the champion saying this is the way to do it properly, I always try to stay ahead of those regulations. So,
all right, that makes sense. Well, thanks very much, Jim. I appreciate you spending the time.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks very much. For Nutra Ingredients USA, I'm Stephen Daniels.